let's move on to an important topic. Film producer Ronnie Screwvala has filed a case with the Competition Commission of India against leading multiplexes as well as the FICCI Multiplex Association of India. He is protesting what he calls draconian discriminatory charges of 20,000 rupees for every screen as a VPF or virtual print screen. Let's find out more about this issue. He joins us now, Ronnie Screwvala, the chairman and co-founder of Upgrad. Ronnie, good morning and thanks so much for joining us on the show. If you can just start by telling us, usually complaints to the Competition Commission are anonymous. Why did you decide to put your name to it? And can you headline what your top complaints are?
Yeah, thanks. Well, look, yes, I agree that they're normally anonymous. I chose to really be upfront and center because I think it has to be taken seriously. It's been going on for almost the 6, 7, 8 years. I've been out of the media industry, but have sort of momentarily stepped back in the last 1 year. And I saw that this was a thing that was pursuing for the last 6 to 7 years and nobody had taken corrective steps. So I personally think I'm personally very happy to take that step forward. And actually, when you have someone that's put a face to it, there'll be a credibility to the complaint and swifter action will be taken. Actually, my broad 3 points are with the Competition Commission with collusion and cartelization of the multiplexes, which has been there for the longest period of time, in my opinion. The context of the virtual print fee is the big one, and then there are two others. And that one specifically is about the fact 2 and 3 very discriminatory things. One, of course, is the fact that normally it was charged worldwide when people were replacing the physical projector with the digital projector. In India, most of them has not even been a replacement. It's been as multiplex. It's their normal capex for which they're actually charging this fee. Second, there was always supposed to be a sunset clause, which was going to be in 2015, maximum 2017, and they've just seen the divide and rule context with the content creators and carried on with this high-handedness. The most important part is all Hollywood studios in India do not pay that. And even a company like Disney, when they released a Hindi film, which was the biggest hit of all time, Dangal, they didn't play the VPF. So if you see that, and here you've got Marathi cinema that's crying out loud, and Tamil and Telugu that's looking for local. But a Hollywood film can release 700 prints instead of actually 200 prints if they were being charged for it, whereas a Hindi film needs to count everything there. So high level of discrimination. To me, the impact is, and why they're being protective about it, is the fact that the 20,000 rupees is not a small sum, because on an average, 200 movies in just Hindi get released every year, and about average 1,000 prints. Some big movies are at 4,000, some small movies are at 600 or 700. But if you take 20,000 rupees into 200 movies into an average of 1,000 prints, that's 400 crores that's going to the bottom line of these 3 or 4 plexes. That's more than their consolidated profit. So I can understand why they want to hold that sandbox, but it's time to break that up. The second big one for me is the fact that the viewing experience in multiplexes has become almost untenable. I know every one of us are thinking that the digital world and the digital platforms are going to push people out of theaters and into, but you can't be further from the truth. Essentially, content creators are trying to make the duration of films tighter, but the multiplexes have made the viewing experience very long. So my key with the Competition Commission is very clear. As a consumer, if I'm paying for a ticket, why do I need to be subjected to 15 minutes of advertising and a 14 to 15-minute interval when I've come to pay for actually content and I've paid for it? I don't need to be subject to advertising. And I'll remind the broadcasting industry, about 8 or 9 years back, the TRI came down very heavily because everyone was running more than 12 minutes of commercial ads per hour, and they made that into a regulation. There was a lot of hue and cry, but then water found its own level. And the third, of course, is the revenue sharing. After the first week, the revenue share goes disproportionately lower for the content creators. So if I have a movie like Uri, which worked hard on creating good content, by the second and third week, I'm demotivated to continue to market and keep it in the theaters because I'm already at a 30% market share, a 70-30 revenue share. So I think for me, it's very, very clear the time has come to be up front and center, be personal, and take this up, even if it means individually.
But Ronnie, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. These are terrible complaints, but wouldn't normally the market correct all this? I mean, if your movie experience is not value for money, for me, because I'm paying so much and I'm forced to watch ads or forced to pay unseemly large amounts for popcorn, I'll stop watching. I'll just wait for it to be released on the channels or on Netflix. won't the regulator tell you that the markets should correct this? I take a point on VPF that it should have a sunset clause, which probably was there and is not being respected. But on other things, market would correct. Wouldn't that be the regulators and the exhibitors' point of view?
So here's my point of view. On VPF is a clear discrimination. It's not just about the sunset clause. It's about right now today Hollywood and Hollywood studios releasing Hindi dubs of Hollywood movies are getting out and not paying VPF, but Marathi, Hindi, and regional language and Indian language is one. So that's discriminatory clearly. I haven't touched on F&B because I do believe that is something that market should correct. But advertising, it's like the TRAI. Why should the TRAI have come in and regulated advertisers? Because you can say the market will correct. If I run 25 minutes of advertising in 1 hour on channel, viewership will come down, ratings will come down, and the market will correct itself. No, that's why regulatory bodies are there, to protect consumers who are angry about it but can't do anything about it.
Okay. Can you share some numbers with us in terms of, I mean, this VPF? How much is the industry-wide VPF fees that is paid currently? And what could the impact be on the profits of multiplexes because of the cut down?
Well, look, I think I ran the maths through. 200 movies get released just in Hindi, and an average of 1,000 prints at 20,000 rupees is 400 crores. There's no cost. It comes to the bottom line, because what they're asking for is a relief where they put it in their balance sheet. It's not a revenue item. It's a balance sheet item for them. From their capex, they're looking at a contribution, whereas it's actually multiplexes are a service provider to content creators. They're not an end unto themselves. In a quarter in which there's not good content, the multiplexes can't do anything about their fortunes. It goes up and it goes down. So they are actually service providers. And to that extent, that's, I think, the impact that would happen, which cumulatively is more than all their profits as they stand today.
Okay. Is it true that the youth are going less for movies and watching on, other platforms?
I think, to me, it's not about driving youth. Even television has been surviving and will grow from a period of time. So nothing replaces one to the other. Today, the core audience for multiplexes is 16 to 24 age group and a little bit more from the 24 to 30. And even when I've started having my discussions before I finally went to the CCI, it was to tell them, look, let's have a long-term view. You're looking at it too much on a quarter-to-quarter basis with your revenue and your pressure. Because firstly, multiplex companies, in my view, are over-leveraged, have to grow. Their per-screen growth is not happening. So they need to grow with more and more screens to show their growth. Therefore, take on more debt, more capex. If we can take a long-term view of the fact that you won't have the young viewers coming to a cinema 2 to 3 years or 4 years from now, only because of the viewing experience and the length of the viewing experience. It's not a small thing. I think it's a substantially big thing. It's a little bit like content today. If it is a 3-hour movie, people are being extremely circumspect about going to it because they feel, oh God, it's a very long movie. So it's, if you ask me, the duration of a movie, 20 minutes more of a duration of a movie is 50 to 60 crores of impact for the content creator. And I think slowly people are realizing that. Directors feel they need to tell the story they wish to do. But essentially, it's not about what they did. It's about the opportunity lost, not about the opportunity gained.
Okay. Well, Ronnie, thanks a lot for this very interesting conversation. In a way, this is pro-consumer. So we do hope that as a consumer, the regulator looks at your complaint very seriously. The investor may not very much like what you're saying, because at the moment the exhibitor stocks are the darlings of investors. But yes, what you're suggesting is a longer term plan for the continued viability of exhibitors. Thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you.
No, go ahead. You were completing your point.
No, just I'm fully committed. I think the ecosystem needs multiplexes to grow their screens. I'm not against it. But I think we jointly need to take a much more collaborative view and a much more longer-term view. Otherwise, it won't solve anything. And I agree. If I was in the multiplexes position, I have the quarter-to-quarter earnings pressure, and therefore it's difficult for me to take those long-term calls. But I think if they don't, we're showing the death knell on many parts. That's why this part of the industry has not grown. A 7 to 8% CAGR for the last 8 to 9 years for the entire movie industry, both plexes and content, is disgraceful for a country like India, where we want movies to be a soft power.
Oh,
so
yes.
that's my last word, I think.
All right, sure. Thanks a lot for that. We have to get back to the market simply because the Nifty Bank has hit the 30,000 mark. Psychologically, that's very big. It's been going from strength to strength, but today financials have just up in a way. So 30,000 on Nifty Bank.
Oh, absolutely. And new highs coming in for a lot of the banking components. HDFC Bank, by the way, has had a fresh high. It's crossed that 2,300 mark. X of the banks, also a couple of names like Titan are hitting new highs right now. So 2% higher on Titan, looking pretty good. But the big talking point really is the Nifty Bank, which has now crossed that 30,000 mark. Let's do one thing. Let's take a short break on that note. On the other side of the break, Nilesh Gupta, the managing partner of Vijay Sales, will join in to tell us how demand for air conditioners is panning out ahead of summer 2019.